11 people, one alleged scheme. And a visa category that was created to protect real victims of serious crimes is now at the center of a federal fraud case in Massachusetts. Surprised, federal prosecutors in Boston say 11 Indian nationals were charged with conspiracy to commit visa fraud after alleged staged armed robberies were used to help store clerks claim they were crime victims for U Visa applications. If you are a U Visa applicant, a family member of an applicant, or an employer in a high-risk retail setting, this story matters for one reason. It shows how quickly a criminal investigation can turn into immigration consequences, and it also shows what kinds of evidence and timelines USCIS and law enforcement may look at more closely. By the end of this video, you will know 3 things. First, what a U Visa actually requires in plain English, including the one document people misunderstand the most. Second, who is likely affected by cases like this and who is not, because panic and rumors spread fast. Third, a practical checklist of what to do right now if you have a pending U Visa, are thinking about filing, or were ever approached by anyone offering a shortcut. Here is what we know from the charging documents and public statements described in your brief. Prosecutors in Boston allege that a group conspired to carry out staged armed robberies at convenience stores, liquor stores, and fast food restaurants. The alleged goal was to create the appearance that certain employees were victims of a violent crime, which is a key element people try to use when applying for U non-immigrant status, commonly called a U Visa. According to the allegations, the robber would threaten clerks or owners with what appeared to be a firearm, take cash, and flee, while surveillance video captured the interaction. Then, the alleged victims waited several minutes before calling police to report the crime. Prosecutors also allege that victims paid an organizer to participate, and that the organizer paid store owners for the use of their stores as the location for these incidents. A very important reminder before we go any further. These are allegations in charging documents. The defendants are presumed innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Still, the details matter because the alleged conduct maps directly onto how U Visa fraud tends to work, and it highlights what investigators and adjudicators consider suspicious. Here is the part most people miss. The U Visa was created to encourage victims to report crimes and help law enforcement, even when the victim is undocumented or otherwise afraid to come forward. So when a fraud scheme tries to manufacture victimhood, it does not just risk a denial. It can trigger criminal prosecution, immigration enforcement attention, and long-term consequences for future benefits. Now let us slow down and define the U Visa in plain English. A U Visa is a temporary immigration status for victims of certain qualifying crimes who suffered substantial physical or mental abuse, and who were helpful, or are likely to be helpful to law enforcement in the investigation or prosecution of that criminal activity. People hear that and think, if I report a crime, I can get a U Visa. That is not how it works. There are 3 big ideas. 1, the crime has to be a qualifying type of crime. 2, there has to be substantial harm. 3, and this is the gatekeeper requirement, the applicant typically needs a law enforcement certification confirming the person was a victim of the qualifying crime and was helpful. In U Visa language, that certification is often the difference between a strong filing and a case that never gets off the ground. This is where people get denied. If the story does not match the police report, if the timeline makes no sense, if the evidence looks staged, or if the applicant cannot show real harm and real cooperation. And in a fraud scenario like the one alleged here, the problem is not just that something is missing. The problem is that something was allegedly created to deceive. So who is affected by news like this, and who is not? First bucket, people with a legitimate U Visa case based on a real crime, a real police report, and real cooperation. You are not automatically in trouble because someone else committed fraud. USCIS does not cancel the entire category because of a single case. But you should expect that adjudicators and investigators may be more alert for red flags, especially in patterns that look similar. Multiple incidents with similar facts, the same locations, the same preparers, the same community network, or unusually similar narratives. Second bucket, people with pending U Visa filings that include unusual elements. For example, if your report was filed long after the incident, or the surveillance video is the main piece of evidence, or there are inconsistencies between your statement and the police narrative, you may see more requests for evidence. That does not mean denial is guaranteed. It means you need to be organized, consistent, and truthful. Third bucket, people who were approached by someone offering to arrange an incident, a report, or a certification. If that happened to you, even if you did not go through with it, you need to treat it as a serious warning sign. Do not pay anyone for a fake incident. Do not sign papers you do not understand. And do not assume you can fix it later by withdrawing. More on that in a minute. Fourth bucket, employers and store owners. If you own or manage a convenience store, liquor store, or any business that gets robbed frequently, you might worry that law enforcement will assume something is staged. The reality is that real robberies happen, and most store owners are victims. But this case shows why investigators may look carefully at patterns: repeated robberies at the same location, unusual delays in calling police, or connections between alleged victims and organizers. Now, the next question is why this is happening. Why would anyone risk staging an armed robbery? The answer is not about one community or one nationality. Fraud follows incentives and desperation. U visas are valuable because they can provide a path to lawful status for someone who otherwise has limited options, and because applicants may feel stuck in long backlogs. When people see years-long timelines and hear rumors that there is a shortcut, some are tempted. That temptation is exactly what fraud organizers exploit. Also, there is a backlog reality. U visa processing is known for long waits, and people often misunderstand what is immediate and what is long-term. Some people think filing equals permission to stay forever. Others think any police report equals eligibility. When confusion meets fear, scams and schemes spread. Here is a myth versus reality moment. Myth: if you have a police report, you automatically qualify for a U visa. Reality: a police report alone is not enough. The case has to meet the legal requirements, and USCIS can examine credibility, consistency, and evidence. If the underlying facts are false or staged, that is not just a weak case, it is potentially a fraud allegation. Another piece most people miss: the certification is a serious document. Law enforcement agencies have their own processes. Some sign only after they confirm facts. Some sign only at certain stages. Some do not sign at all unless the person was truly helpful. In an alleged staged scenario, the certification process becomes one more place where inconsistencies can surface. So how do schemes like the one alleged in Boston get detected? In your brief, investigators alleged a pattern. The robberies were captured on video. The robber displayed an apparent firearm. Cash was taken, and then the call to police came after a delay. When investigators see repeated incidents with similar choreography, similar timing, or the same organizer connected to multiple cases, that is a red flag. Here are common red flags, described generally, not as accusations toward any viewer. Unusually similar victim statements across different cases. Multiple robberies tied to the same circle of people. Financial transfers or payments connected to the incident. The same interpreter, preparer, or fixer showing up repeatedly, and inconsistencies between what the video shows and what the report says. Another red flag is when the alleged victim appears unusually calm or when the sequence of events looks rehearsed. None of these alone proves fraud, but patterns can draw scrutiny. Now let us talk about real-world consequences, because this is where families get blindsided. Consequence number 1, criminal exposure. In the case described in your brief, prosecutors charge conspiracy to commit visa fraud, which carries potential prison time and fines if proven. That is separate from any immigration consequence. Consequence number 2. Immigration consequences can be broader than people think. A fraud finding can affect future eligibility for other benefits, including family-based petitions, employment-based options, and even naturalization later. And even without a final fraud finding, Being associated with a fraud investigation can slow everything down. Consequence number 3. Delays and requests for evidence. Even applicants with real cases can face longer processing times if USCIS or law enforcement is verifying facts. If the agency needs to recheck certifications, recontact police departments, or review supporting documents, cases can stall. Consequence number 4. Travel and work impacts. Many people filing U Visa-related benefits are also trying to manage work authorization timelines, address changes, and emergencies. If your case gets extra scrutiny, you may face gaps or delays, and that can affect your ability to keep a job or renew a lease. This is where people make irreversible mistakes. They panic, they move, they change stories, or they stop cooperating with law enforcement. That can harm an otherwise legitimate case. Myth versus reality number 2. Myth: if something looks suspicious, you can just withdraw your application and it disappears. Reality: withdrawing does not erase what was submitted, and it does not prevent an investigation if there are allegations of fraud. Withdrawing might be the right step in some situations, but it is not a magic delete button. Let me give you an example scenario. Clearly hypothetical. Example scenario. Priya works at a small convenience store. She was genuinely robbed. She reported it right away, and she cooperated with the detective. A friend tells her, "You will never get approved now because of the news about staged robberies." Priya panics and considers changing parts of her statement to sound more severe. That is the wrong move. If the incident was real, the safest path is consistency. Match your statement to what was actually reported, keep your records, and follow lawful steps. Trying to embellish harm or change details can create the appearance of deception, even when the underlying crime was real. Now, another example scenario. Example scenario. Arjun is undocumented and struggling. Someone in his community offers a package deal, an incident, a police report, and help with forms for a fee. Arjun does not go through with it, but he gave the person his passport copy and address. In this situation, the immediate priority is to stop sharing documents, protect your identity, and get reliable advice. Do not assume the person will not use your information, and do not get pulled into anything that involves staged events or false reports. So what should you do now? Here is a practical checklist. Do this and avoid this format. This is general information, not legal advice. Do this. Keep a complete copy of everything filed, including your personal statement, the police report number, and any correspondence from law enforcement. Make sure your story is consistent across documents. If you made an honest mistake, correct it carefully and transparently through proper channels rather than changing details casually. Maintain proof of cooperation, dates of interviews, messages with detectives, court dates attended, and any victim services contact. Use official sources to track your case and to understand the U Visa process. If you are unsure where your case stands, use USCIS case tools and reputable agency updates. If you used a preparer or attorney, confirm what was filed in your name. Ask for copies. You have a right to know what was submitted. Avoid this. Do not pay anyone to arrange a crime, stage an incident, or fabricate evidence. That can turn into criminal charges and long-term immigration bars. Do not sign blank forms or statements you cannot read. If you need an interpreter, use someone qualified and independent when possible. Do not exaggerate injuries, threats, or timelines. USCIS and investigators can compare records. Do not assume that a delay in calling police is always fatal, but do not invent reasons after the fact. If there was a delay, explain it truthfully. Do not rely on social media rumors saying USCIS is canceling U visas or denying everyone. That is not supported by the facts in this brief. Here is the small detail that changes everything. The U visa is built around credibility and cooperation. When your case is real, your goal is to make it easy for an officer to see that it is real, with clean documentation and consistent facts. Now, what could happen next after charges like these? First, there is the court process. These defendants were charged, and the case will proceed through federal court steps. Outcomes can take time, And because these are serious allegations, investigators may continue looking at connected incidents, connected locations, and connected filings. Second, there could be more scrutiny on similar patterns. That can mean more requests for evidence, more interviews in some cases, or more verification with law enforcement agencies. Third, you may see community-level impacts. People becoming afraid to report crimes because they think police involvement equals immigration risk. The reality is more nuanced. Many agencies and victim services encourage reporting, and the U Visa is intended to support that. But fraud cases can create fear. If you are a real victim, do not let someone else wrongdoing silence you. Fourth, scams may increase. Every time a high-profile case makes headlines, scammers pivot. They will claim they can guarantee approval, or that they have inside connections, or that they can fix a denial. A guarantee is your warning sign. One more myth versus reality, because this is where money gets taken from families. Myth: a consultant can guarantee a U Visa if you pay enough. Reality: no one can guarantee an immigration benefit, and anyone selling guarantees is a risk to your case. Let us bring this home with a calm recap. 1. Federal prosecutors in Boston allege a conspiracy where staged armed robberies were used to support false U Visa victim claims, and 11 Indian nationals were charged with conspiracy to commit visa fraud. 2. The U Visa is designed for real victims of certain crimes who suffered substantial harm and were helpful to law enforcement. It is not a shortcut, and it is not automatic. 3. Most legitimate applicants are not automatically targeted, but fraud cases can increase scrutiny, delays, and requests for evidence, especially when patterns resemble known schemes. 4. Fraud can create both criminal and immigration consequences that last for years. Withdrawing a filing does not erase past submissions. 5. The safest action is practical and boring. Keep records, stay consistent, use official sources, and avoid anyone offering staged incidents or guaranteed outcomes. Do not panic. Use this as a reminder to protect your paperwork, protect your credibility, and protect your family from shortcuts that can explode later. If you want, comment with your situation in general terms, like pending U Visa, preparing to file, or worried about a preparer, and I will make a follow-up video covering the most common safe next steps and which official updates to monitor. And if this kind of clear, calm immigration news helps you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update.